Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Retain podcast on the GrowthAmped channel. Today, we are joined by Marci James, who is the founder of Be Inspired Digital, a Denver-based agency that brings 20 plus years of deep industry experience, including scaling a startup to $30 million and more to MLSs, brokerages, and proptech companies who need senior level marketing without the cost of a full-time hire. She's also a published contributor to Inman, which means she's not just doing the work. She's shaping the conversation about where proptech marketing is heading. Marci, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm excited.
Same. Thanks for making the time to join us and share your expertise and experience working a very interesting space that almost impacts every American. So you described Be Inspired Digital as a fractional CMO partner and full service agency specifically for real estate and proptech. Can you walk us through how that focus came to be and what drew you to specifically this corner of the market?
It's because I've spent my whole career in the real estate industry in marketing. And so it's my home. It's what I know. It's what I love. It's where my relationships and my connections are. And it's just my home. And it's a great niche for me because I'm very connected within the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've talked earlier, of course, but then when I looked at your background, like you've got Realtor.com, you've got the National Association of Realtors, Maverick Systems, and now your own agency.
Yeah.
So what threads run through all of these roles and what does the work at Be Inspired Digital look like a day to day compared to, the earlier chapters of your career?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two questions wrapped in there. And the first one I'll answer is that I started out, while I've been in the real estate industry for over 25 years, I started out on the brokerage side. So I originally worked in brokerage marketing as a marketing director for a big Prudential franchise. And then from there, I went to a startup where I was probably hire number 4 or 5, one of the first few people hired by the company. And I was with them for 11 years. And so I helped grow that company to where we were making, $30 million a year in revenue, growing over 20 to 25% per year. That was a really fun experience. From there, I went to a prop tech giant, Realtor.com. So I got to experience what it's like to work in a big company, a big prop tech company for about 8 years. And then I went to NAR, worked for a membership organization within the industry. So I have this really, really unique experience that gives me a perspective that is different than most people would have in this industry because my experience spans through so many different types of companies. And I feel like that's part of the magic that I can offer to a lot of my clients. As far as day to day, it's very different. I fought the urge to create my own company for several years. I had it in my mind, but I had that also fear. I was afraid to make that jump. I was afraid it would be too lonely. I was afraid of not having benefits and a paycheck every week. So it took me a while to build up the nerve to do it. And I am so happy and so glad that I did. My days are there's so much less stress because I have more that's within my control. I can control my clients are, who I work with. I control the strategies that we're putting into place so that if I want to use my gut to make a decision, I can use my gut. I make decisions based on 25 years of knowledge and intuition. And those are not things that I've always been able to do working for bigger companies. And when you're working for somebody else, there's always somebody else in control. And so it feels really, really wonderful to be running my own company right now.
Absolutely. Of course, I took a look at your website and it says something about grow smarter, not harder, right? So for someone new to Be Inspired Digital, what does that actually mean in practice?
That again comes from a lot of experience. And what I have found, what happens a lot when someone hires a company for marketing is they want to dive right into, they want marketing to pay for itself. They want there to be leads coming in and those leads closing, and they want to see this revenue line. And depending on who you are and where you are, that's not always going to happen. And I tell, especially startups, I said, there is a time where you have to actually invest in your business. We have to build like your owned media. We have to build this first in order to build trust and a journey. And then we get into the next stage. And finally, we get into paid ads. But I said, that's a full journey that you have to take. And you're not going to make revenue right away. And there's another approach you need to take if you want to make revenue. And that's like hiring business business development, not marketing. So, and then the other way that I try to apply grow smarter, not harder is through AI. And I'm very open. I talk about it on my website. I talk about it with all my clients on how we use AI. And one of the things I pride myself in is on how we use it and how I train it. And I tell everybody the real art, there's really truly an art to get training your AI to create the output that you need and that you want and making that output sound unique. And I'm really good at that.
Absolutely. Because so many people, they use AI as a search engine, right? They just replace Google with ChatGPT or Claude. And you give that level of query, you're going to get that level of response. But there's
Mhm.
so much power in knowing how to leverage what is almost like a person that can wear whatever hat you want it to wear. And you can say, hey, you need to be this guy today and advise me in how I need to do this thing with my business. And the next day it's a different role. So,
Right. Yeah. No, I've really invested a huge amount of time and resources into AI.
and a little later in the conversation, I would love to get a little more specific about this because AI is like this elephant in the room that nobody can avoid, right? It's going to crush you if you don't acknowledge it. So let's go a little bit into the industry landscape and then your agency's position, right? You've written a three-part prop tech marketing guide for Inman covering owned, earned, and paid media. When you zoom out, what's the single biggest mistake you see prop tech startups making in their marketing right now, and why does it keep repeating?
Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier. And that article was written specifically for prop tech companies, but I think you can apply it. It can be applied to any company. And I wrote that for a younger someone, a company in startup mode. And I talked about owned, earned, and paid media. And so there was a piece on each of those. And the first one is owned. If you're marketing, that's your website, your social media, your blog, your SEO. Those are the things you have to get your house in order. Get all of that built. And that is where the investment piece comes into marketing. That's an investment. It will start paying off, but it takes months. Literally, I tell any company I'm going to work for, give it a year. We'll give it a year and we're going to do a ton of blogging and you're going to slowly see that traffic increase come. And
Mhm.
that's the investment. Then comes the earned media, which is where you're getting into reviews and press releases and thought leadership. And for me, thought leadership, CEO thought leadership is huge right now because consumers don't really engage with company pages on LinkedIn, on Facebook, anywhere. It's rare unless you have a really crazy consumer brand like Taco Bell or one of those. But they do engage with the CEOs and those guys that are out there talking and creating great conversations. That's what you have to do. And that's where the power of the company and the earned media comes in. And then the last is paid. And that's where you got to have these two, your owned and your earned in place first before you go to paid. And paid's where the leads are going to come in, yes. But you can't start with paid. I've had companies that come to me that want to jump right into paid, and I won't work with them. I tell them, no, I won't do it. And any company that thinks that they're going to hire my company to come in and create like their owned media and they're going to start making money off that right away, I'm like, no, I'm setting your expectations now. That's not how it works. It is a minimum of 6 months investment and you're going to slowly start seeing those results, but it takes time. Everything good takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, this principle holds true for most companies that are doing their marketing and are starting out, right? If they
Right?
haven't built their collateral, they haven't built their trust, they haven't built trust through these other channels, whether it's owned or earned, then the paid avenue is just a money pit where it's going to cause frustration and there's lack of trust. You can throw a lot of money at it. It's not going to convert.
Right. If you don't have some thought leadership going on where because people do their research, they do their homework, they want to know who they're working with. Like all of that has to be built first. That infrastructure of owned media is what builds the trust because now I can go to your website and if I click on services or whatever you're doing, there's something that says, oh, you're a consumer, click here. Oh, you're an agent, like click here to learn how we can help. Like it needs to talk to me and all of that needs to be built in. And I need to know what the benefits are for me. I don't care about your features. I need to know how is this product going to benefit me? And those are the things that like my company will come in and that's where we try to build all of that out before we do anything
Yeah,
paid. Yeah.
for sure. As an industry, real estate has had a few turbulent years, right? Whether it's rate environment shifts, NAR settlements, brokerage consolidation, and other things, right? Now, how have these macro pressures changed what Be Inspired Digital's clients actually need from a marketing partner?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And let me just preface this by saying, like, I've been in the industry for a long time, and real estate industry is very much controlled by the economy and where interest rates are and jobs and all of that. Because people lose jobs, they lose homes. And so I've seen the market do this many, many times. It always down, it comes back up, it'll go back down. It's just very fluid. And so I never panic. And I think a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time feel the same way. Like, there's going to be fluctuations and you expect it. And that's just how it goes. This time has been a little bit different because it's not like we came out of COVID, we sailed through COVID. The industry did fantastic. And then out of COVID, interest rates went up and it really took a ton of people out of the market. And because housing is so expensive, first time home buyers struggled to buy. It really, really created this void where very unique because prices weren't dropping, but nothing was selling, nothing's moving. And so a lot of companies started laying off people because they just weren't bringing in revenue. Lots of layoffs. Then AI kind of hit, even more layoffs. But what happened with me and with a lot of other people, and I didn't get laid off, and that's honestly not why I started this company, but a ton of other people were getting laid off. And I saw all this happening, and companies started hiring fractional because it's just more economic. Like, you don't need a full time marketing person. You need somebody that knows what they're doing, that can, let's take care of your weekly email, your social media, your blogging, your press releases. Let's do what we need to do. We don't have to be a full time employee. And so I think companies just started. I mean, there's just a real big trend in the industry itself for fractional work. And so that actually has been a real benefit for me.
For sure. So you work with MLSs, brokerages, and prop tech companies. These are
Mhm.
three very unique or quite different audiences from one another. What your ideal client is within that spectrum and how perfect engagement look for you.
Yeah, that's been an interesting journey for me because when I started this, because my background is so unique and I have so many different types of relationships with the industry, I really didn't know who my clients were going to be.
Hmm.
And in the beginning, I started attracting a lot of prop tech because I would say the majority of my career was in prop tech, and a lot of people knew me for that. So my first few clients were prop techs and startups and that were within the prop tech industry. And they're great. I love working with startups. I love helping founders. The only problem with that is they don't have a lot of revenue. They don't have a lot of money to
Right.
spend.
Right.
And so it's difficult because I basically charge my 2 startups. I have 2, really 3 that I'm working with right now, and they're kind of on a different payment plan than everybody else because until they reach a certain level of funding and a certain level of revenue, I keep it low and we do what's super important and we just work with them a little bit differently. And I love those companies. I love those founders. I love what we're doing with them, but they're not really padding my pocketbook very much. Those are more passion projects. And so I found working with the bigger brokerages and the MLSs and associations, that's where I can charge what we should be charging, what we deserve to be paid. And those clients are fun and wonderful as well, but they really hold together the business financially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other than the startups, what's your experience been with those that are a little further along in their growth story? 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old. How did those engagements look today?
They're great, actually. It's just fun to work with a brand. We just did a complete rebrand for them this year and wrote a very fun story for that brand. And that was such a rewarding experience. I loved that branding process, but it wasn't just the brand because they retained us to do all of their marketing. So we are getting to kind of see that through its first year of growth. And that's been super, super fun. I love every stage of marketing. When a company is a few years old, you're doing more of the full package of marketing. There's automations, there's systems, there's lead flow, there's client. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the word from the client experience. There's a term for it that my brain
Sure.
isn't providing
The journey,
the
the
client
customer journey. Yeah.
to map all
Yeah.
of that out. So there's just a lot of that going on, and that's fun as well. And I mean, I love it all.
Yeah. Let's talk about the elephant now. AI, right? You mentioned it on your website. And where are you seeing real practical ROI for your clients from AI? And where do you think the hype still outpaces the reality?
That's interesting. For me, I use AI. I used Stack tools. Perplexity is my research tool. There's nothing that I have found that beats Perplexity for research. And I have the paid account. I use Claude for most of my copywriting and strategy. I like ChatGPT as well for strategy. I think Claude does a better job with copywriting, but ChatGPT has made huge strides in that area. They're a lot better than they were early on. But again, I have a team account in Claude. And so I spend hours training. I have a project for
Sure.
each client and I spend hours and hours training on that client. I upload hundreds of blog posts, every piece of content I can find. And I train the AI to use the right voice and the right tone. And I train my AI not to use the AI isms and the things that people will look at like, oh, that's AI. I can tell. Like, no, you have to train. AI will give you whatever you put into it. So if you train it, it will give you the exact results that you want. So I spend a lot of time training and perfecting my AI so that my team can go in there and write a blog post that comes out beautifully written in that client's voice with
Mhm.
specifically for that client's audience and that niche audience and using the keywords and SEO that we want for that client. So all of that is trained and we use it for SEO, we use it for email, we use it for blogging. So the voice is consistent everywhere. Every
Mhm.
team members has a team account, and we're all using the same input. So the voice stays consistent everywhere, which is super important to me as well. So that's where I feel like we're really leveraging. I also have Cowork and I have it hooked up to my Slack and my email and my browser and everywhere else. And it can go in and do daily summaries for me every morning. It connects with my Fathom. I use Fathom for all meetings. So it goes in and reads our notes and then it looks at my Slack and looks at my email and it tells me what I haven't done yet that's in my meeting that is due for this next meeting. Hey, you said you do this last week and I'm checking your email on Slack and I don't see it anywhere. I think you need to work. So its name is Betty and Betty keeps me accountable for all of that. So those are the areas where I feel like we're really doing some great things with AI. But I do feel agents like, oh, I didn't say Gemini is great for images. So if you want to create images, Gemini is the best tool there. But as far as the hype, I think there's a lot of hype. And I think there's a lot of people that are trying to dip their toe into it for marketing, a lot of agents, and they just don't understand the importance of training. And so they're getting content that sounds like everybody else's AI content. And then they think it's bad AI. It's not AI. It's the way you're using the AI. And so I think there's a lot of hype there. I also think that a lot of businesses are feeling pressured to try AI and they don't necessarily understand like where they should be bringing AI in. And I think AI is eliminating a lot of jobs, but I also feel like it's creating a lot of opportunities for people that know AI well to go in and consult with businesses on how they should be integrating AI and all of that because they feel like there's a lot of them that are making mistakes, that are using it for the wrong things, that are not seeing the results that they wanted to see.
Yeah. No, you hit on a lot of good points there because no AI has the complete package, right? No LLM has the complete package. And I'm totally with you. I do a lot of perplexity use myself when I'm researching guests that are going to be on my show and I'm just looking at what they've published, what their social activity's been in the last 6 to 12 to 24 months and what they're passionate about. How do I find an approach angle that
Yeah.
gets the best engagement for the best conversation, for the best viewership?
And then just simple things like knowing that like Claude, I can't upload video to Claude. It won't index the video, but I can upload video to Gemini and Gemini will index the entire video in seconds and spit out a summary for me for what are the best clips in here for me to use for social media. And it's, yeah. So knowing which tool does what is also important.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about looking ahead, right?
Mhm.
Thinking about Be Inspired Digital's goals for the next 12 to 18 months. what's one significant challenge that, if solved, would have the biggest impact on hitting those goals?
Gosh, this is probably my biggest challenge is scaling. It's hard because clients tend to want to work with me because they know me, they've heard about me. And so trying to scale and keep myself from having to do too much of the little work. Like, I want my team members to be doing that. I want my team members involved and building those client relationships with the clients rather than me. And so that's kind of my goal right now is doing that. And what I started doing was hiring what I would call like project managers, which are just like
Mhm.
each one of my accounts now has someone that oversees that account and is the main person of contact. I'm still involved. I still have deliverables for that account, but that person is the one in charge of making sure everything's getting done on a day to day basis. And that helps tremendously. But I'm thinking I also need to start hiring probably higher caliber for some accounts, project managers, which are going to be expensive. And so, in order to do that, I'm going to have to take a hit financially in the beginning, but it will allow me, I believe, to grow. And so,
Yeah.
that's kind of where my head's at, what I think I need to do. But that's the biggest challenge for sure.
I think a base plus variable might make it more incentivizing for somebody that's a high performer and confident to kind of step in and say, okay, you know what, Marcy, I can do this. I'm going to prove that I can do this and this and this and deliver this in 6 months. What do you think?
I love that idea. Yeah, I would love that.
That's the kind of people I like to work with because I don't want you to just show up to work because you get a salary. I want you to show up because your effort and your hours in working smart should directly translate into your pocketbook and ours, right? So,
100%. That's
yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to take that and run with it.
happy to help. So, the fractional CMO model solves the overhead problem beautifully, right, for your clients. But it also means you're often the only senior strategist in the room.
Mhm.
Now, when you look at current client acquisition for Be Inspired Digital itself, what's working well and where do you feel there's still untapped potential?
I would say the fractional CMO piece isn't, while I do fill that role for some of my clients, for others, they may have a CMO where we are just coming in and fulfilling a content need that they have. We're doing their social media and their email marketing and their SEO blogging and that sort of thing. So it's different per client. I really enjoy where the times where I get to come in as the CMO and build
Mhm.
strategy. That's a fun part of working with the startups as well, is really getting to build that strategy out from day one with the CEOs and guide that along the way. And startups tend to attract investors and other people that are brilliant, and getting to work with some of them as well has been very fun and rewarding. So I feel like I'm still getting to grow and learn from other people, and a lot of that does come from the company. So just because you may be the CMO doesn't mean there's going to be not going to be like brilliant minds in a room that are going to help you create the
Right.
perfect strategy.
Well, now that you say that, when we think about, let's say there's a client that you join as a fractional CMO, there might be people there that have been there for 5, 6, 10 years, and they might know the landscape and the business model a lot better and their customers a lot better. So there's definitely, like you said, a lot of value in it. And beyond seniority is one thing, but then the tribal experience and the culture and the customer journey mapping, I think that's where all these marriage happens over there, right?
Yeah, I always love to have a really close relationship with the sales or business development team. I think it's really important because they are face to face with the people that we're selling to. So they're going to know what resonates when they're in a conversation. And so I think it's always really important for marketing to work very closely with sales because, yeah, the feedback that you get from sales can really improve the output.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how many people confuse and interchange marketing and sales and they're so different?
They are different, and I've had that a couple times where I've been hired for marketing, but people want me to do sales, and that's hard for me because I do have a ton of relationships, and I don't mind making an introduction every now and then, but I'm also not a salesperson, and I don't like leveraging personal relationships for that, and
Yeah.
so I've had to walk that line very carefully and walk away from clients that are expecting too much of that.
So you also talk about partnership marketing as one of your services, right?
Mhm.
Now, how much of it Be Inspired Digital's own growth comes through partnerships or referrals, relationships versus outbound or content driven motion?
All of it, I would say. While I do have a website, I have not done any type of actual marketing for my own website other than I just do thought leadership. I let people know what I'm doing. I post on social media. I give advice on social media about marketing all the time. This year, I haven't attended as many events as I normally do. I'll probably get back to traveling a little bit more. I've had some stuff going on at home that's kept me here, but I do plan next year to travel a little bit more, getting out to the events and being seen. When you're seen, you're remembered, you know, and you're building those face to face relationships that you're building them on LinkedIn and you're reinforcing them when you see people face to face. And so I do believe that getting out and attending the industry events is really important. But that's where really all of my business at this point has come from is through relationships, referrals. And yeah, I do a lot of mentoring as well. So there's a couple different startup incubators that I've mentored for. There's a couple I do writing for Inman. I tried to come on and offer valuable content for free wherever I can. And that is basically how I'm driving business.
Well, yeah, there's nothing more powerful than the power of referral and a warm introduction, right? If you could wave a magic wand and instantly solve one problem with Be Inspired Digital related to growth, capacity, or efficiency, what would it be and why?
Gosh, honestly, I'd want someone to come and take everything off my plate except strategy and creative because that's what I love. I love being creative and I love the strategy. But that's not really logical. I still, at some point, maybe that'll happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime too soon. It would be fun if I can hire those people that can replace me in the day to day meetings and allow me to come in and just really build bigger strategy. That's the stuff that excites me and energizes me. It's the minutia that, is like the heavy stuff, the billing, the follow-ups, all the administrative work. The other thing, which I try to do some of now, but it's hard, is to be able to work from wherever I want to work. So more travel and working the hours that I want to work. And it's, again, I still am pretty tied to a regular, especially Monday through Thursday, a regular at least 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. schedule where I have lots of meetings. Really need to be present. And after that, I can be more flexible. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my goal. That would be my goal is to kind of get there to that point where, yeah.
It's very logical, and maybe there might be some solutions around the corner that can actually help with that. But in the meantime, when you look at your daily planning and your weekly planning, do you allocate or hard allocate certain hours of the day for creative stuff versus some for more of the daily or upkeep tasks and admin tasks and stuff that are not revenue generating but are keeping the lights on?
Yeah, I'm just a really, really bad example of that, Ian. I have ADHD, and so I tend to hyper focus. And I'm very much a procrastinator as well, but that's part of what drives the hyper focus is when I know I have to get something done. And so I tend to wait to the day before it's due, and then I will hyper focus and pound out something really, really good because that's how I work my best. It's not for everybody. You have to be able to really hyper focus in order to do what I do. But because I have ADHD, like when there's something fun that needs to be done, when there's a strategy doc or something creative, like I will absolutely always like go to that first and postpone the rest of it.
But not
But
so fun stuff.
yeah, so I wish I had put together a more structured day, but I just work better with freedom. Like where I have to focus where my mind is at. So when my mind is in the mood for this, I'm going to go there and focus. And when I'm under pressure, I know that I will hyper focus and get it done. I just got to go over here and get it done. And maybe up till 2 o'clock, but it's going to be done and it's going to be fantastic. So that's unfortunately how I tend to work. Very freestyle.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I had another guest way ahead in the season, and he said something to me that kind of stuck. He said, Fridays are my no meeting days. Fridays are when I get stuff done, right? All other days, I'll give you time. I said, well, how about for content creation? What's your day for content creation? And so there's a long pause. I was like, I think a Friday afternoon podcast sounds like a good idea to wrap up your week. And it was kind of light bulb for both of us. He said, okay, yeah, let's do it.
I like that. No, I do not schedule anything on Fridays either. That's my day. Like, I would love to take a 3-day weekend every week, but it doesn't usually happen. But it is my day where there's no meeting. So it's that day I know, like, oh, I can knock out this and this and this on Friday. And so it's always just a really non stressful, great, fun day for me because I get to just settle in and focus and work, which is really fun. The meetings are hard for me. That's where the big work comes in. So,
I think Fathom has been, or just note takers, right? In general, have been the best saving grace for folks with ADHD that can't focus on what's like, because for a minute you catch something and you tune to that, and then you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost where we were. And so looking at the note taker on the right, you're like, ah, okay, got it. So
oh my gosh, I am so grateful for Fathom for that exact reason because, like you do, when you're trying to write stuff down, then you're not listening to the rest of what they're saying. And by actually being able to sit back and know that my note taker is writing that down, I can completely focus on what they're saying and think of creative responses. And I just feel like the meetings are more spontaneous and creative when we're not focused on writing notes down all the time. So, yeah.
absolutely. While we talk about operational efficiency and looking at the long term, right? So definitely running a fractional CMO practice means you're often context switching across clients, engagements, or both of those, right? Does that present any repetitive tasks or processes, whether it's reporting, content scheduling, outreach, or anything else that consume meaningful time but don't directly grow the business?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. The hardest thing for me, and I have talked to other consultants as well, it's like, oh, you reach a certain point and like, how do you take on another client? How do you like, is there bandwidth? Well, you have to bring on the help, which is why I started giving each client a project manager. And so I pay them well and they're good. And they're the ones that really help manage and keep me in line too. If I have something due for that client, they'll remind me and let me know. So I think that's a big part of managing for me is not placing everything, not me trying to remember every detail of every client, everything that's due, but having a team that is doing that with me. And then I would say that we leverage Slack, we leverage Trello. So there's tools that we store everything in Trello. And then Slack is where all of our communication goes. And most of our clients have Slack channels as well, where we keep all of the communication with the client within the Slack channel. And so
Mhm.
that keep everything organized as well. So I think all of that really, really helps. But it's a lot to keep running. Yeah. It's like a lot of moving pieces, a lot, you just thinking on your feet all the time.
Yeah. I'm just curious, do the project managers also help with the creativity aspect and the content strategy for the customers, or are they purely managing scope, schedule, and budget?
No, they do a little bit of all of it. I do have a social media manager. We have a graphic designer. We have a video designer. We have a copywriter. So for most of our clients, we're just using spreadsheets to assign work. So when something's due, they're going in and adding it to the copywriter spreadsheet. Hey, I need this blog post, this date, this topic, that's SEO keyword, all of that. Graphic designer, same thing. They're putting in what they need, the video designer, all of that. So they are managing the creative process. In most cases, they're not creating it. But like when it comes to the newsletter, like if there's a weekly newsletter, they know what belongs in that newsletter. They're the one that's they know what's going on. They know any promos that are going on. So they're the one that's putting all the information together for the newsletter. They do write that copy in most cases. So
Got it.
it's a little bit of a mix of both, but
Okay.
I want them to feel like it's their baby, they own it. They're the ones that have all of the information and they approve the blog posts, they approve. In most cases, I give them a rights to make approval on content without involving me. So
That's good. So, when we talk about metrics, what metrics do you rely on most to understand the health and growth of Be Inspired Digital? And are there areas where visibility or actionable insights still feel murky?
yeah, for my company, my growth My metrics are really based on revenue. I do have charts where I keep like the amount of time that we spend on each client. I do have my team member track that for me. And so I'm aware of that. I don't pay a huge amount of attention simply because when you're on retainer, work ebbs and flows. And I try to be aware of a client that where the amount of work is growing steadily over time and understanding, well, we need to adjust. I need to have a talk with them. And just 2 weeks, I had two clients that I needed to have that talk with. And both of them were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's expand. Let's move the retainer up to this amount. It was an easy both of them. So I do that, but for the most part, I just track by revenue growth and make projections that way. So for my clients, I mean, we use a lot of revenue, of course, matters. That's a huge part of it. But I think Google Analytics, as far as like telling a story and understanding, like, well, we're driving traffic from this source over to this landing page, but it's not converting. What's the problem? Are we bringing in the wrong traffic? Is it the landing page that's not? I mean, it's like those are the mysteries, the fun mysteries that you get to kind of unravel and solve in marketing. And so for clients, we do a lot of Google Analytics and a lot of tracking of content and measuring of content. And some of it I know is a waste of time. Like we measure social media for them every month. We provide an array of stats. It doesn't really, in most cases, tell a story, not like it used to.
Mhm.
And the metrics are just are very depending on who changes the algorithm this month and who does what with their algorithm this month. Like it can impact our post engagement dramatically just month to month. And it has nothing to do with the content we're posting and everything to do with the algorithm change. And so I think a lot of that can be very misleading, but you just have to track over time. And so I try to tell everybody, don't look at this month, don't look at this week. As long as we're climbing over the next 6 months, that's what we try to do.
Got it. That's pretty accurate in terms of metrics tracking. When your image writing and content marketing position you as a thought leader in the prop tech space, how intentional is that as a strategy, and how do you balance content creation against client delivery?
Yeah. I do feel that when I first started my agency, I was very intentional about content and writing for Inman pretty regularly. And it really paid off. I did get clients through that. And so I really believe in that strategy. I've not been consistent with it like I should be. I tend to prioritize my client work all the time over promoting my own stuff. I lecture my clients all the time that consistency is key. You need to get that thought leadership post out every Tuesday and every Thursday. It doesn't have to be perfect. Consistency is more important than perfection. And I lecture them all the time and I drive them crazy and bug them, but I don't do it for myself. So I need to get better about walking the walk and talking the talk. So yeah, I need to get better. That's one of my goals for the next year is to really improve regular thought leadership and regular writing for not just Inman, but there's lots of different media companies out there that I could write for. And so I think it's important that I do more of that. I do it for my clients. So, like, this is a piece of that. I'm
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
because honestly, I've probably had a dozen podcast requests in the last 3 months, and I've ignored all of them. And something made me stop and say, I need to start. I need to start accepting these requests. And so, yeah, I'm like, all right, I'm going to
I'm glad you did.
thank you.
Well, I quite honestly, you're the first prop tech marketer that I've talked to on the series. So I think you add a very different dimension in terms of our a typical audience. We've had marketing folks that have talked about different niches, and this one is not a repeat. This is the first time. So I'm glad we were able to make this work and talk a little bit about prop tech because the number of people it impacts.
It does impact a ton of people. And one of the things that really surprised me, and I just read this, there was a study of like investors and they run all the numbers on prop tech and where they think it's going. And I know so many people right now, there's been so much consolidation within the industry, so many acquisitions, big companies. Remax was just acquired,
Mhm.
Fathom. estate was just, there's just acquisitions. Every time you open up the news, there's another real estate acquisition going on right now. And because of that, a lot of people in the prop tech field are very worried about the shrinking because these big giant companies tend to build their own prop tech and do their own thing. And so there's been a lot of worry. But I did just read recently that prop tech is expected to expand like 20% year over year for the next like 7 or 8 years. They're expecting more and more prop tech. And I think AI might be playing a role in that. I'm sure there's going to be more AI prop tech tools and consumer tools for searching for homes and that are based on more AI. But I was really, really happy to see that stat that prop tech's not going anywhere. It's just going to expand and be an even bigger industry over the next 10 years. So.
Oh, absolutely. As we get to the end of our session here, right? Beyond the day to day, what's the long term vision for Be Inspired Digital? And what kinds of strategic partnership or resources do you think will be essential to get there?
I love bringing the opportunity to have a fractional leader to a lot of these companies that can't afford it on their own or can't afford to hire someone full time, especially these smaller companies. I think I mentioned that earlier. It's really just my passion is helping these startups and being able to give back to an industry that has blessed me throughout my career. And so I'm always looking for clients that have really cool, unique prop tech that I believe in, that I think is great for the consumer, a great win. Really, I always put the consumer first in my mind. I love the industry. I love agents, but I don't care how good the product is, if it doesn't benefit the consumer in the end, it's not going to be successful. And so I being able to offer this fractional type of opportunity to other companies. And if I can do that and I can build my business and travel, I would love to sell it someday, maybe in 10 years to the point where I can sell it. But during the next 10 years that I am building it, I want to live a fun life and travel more and not be tied to the business and on an hourly basis or daily basis where I'm having to manage the clients myself. So that's the goal.
Portability, freedom of movement.
Yeah.
Very much. So many of us, we look for that, and few of us get to it. So, all the best for finding that balance and just getting to that point, right? Where you're able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to work for a month from Europe because I want to go check out this region, or I want to go to South America or wherever.
I also feel like I'm blessed at a point in my life and my career where if push comes to shove, lifestyle is going to take priority over additional work. I have what I need. I don't need
Sure.
that headache. I'd rather have a smaller group of phenomenal clients that I love working with, but I'm also driven. So there's that part of me that wants to see what more I can do. So it's a fine line, but we're going to see what we can do, but still keep it fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I could leave you with one thing, right, it'd be get the type of people that if money motivates them and or something that you can provide motivates them to make you more fluid, make you less required in the discourse, it will open up so many doors. So, yeah. And conversely, right, is there something that you would like to leave our audience with?
I mean, just follow your dreams and your passions, and work should be fun and it shouldn't be a chore every single day. So follow your passions and your dreams and just let the universe open the doors for you. When you're having fun, I think the doors just begin to open. And we're all meant to be, we're all here to have fun in the end and be productive, but doing something that we enjoy and that we love. And so that's the secret to life, is what I believe. And I hope all of your audience is able to accomplish that at some point.
Well, thank you so much. And it's been fun just getting to speak with you about prop tech, and you being our first prop tech guest, I think has been really eye opening just to kind of tell us how perspective is a little different on your side of the industry. So thank you for making time to be part of our episode today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure.
Aw,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.